When many of us hear the word hypnosis, we think of someone swinging a clock like a pendulum, saying to us, "You're getting sleepy." But is this how it really works? Here at Pure Hypnosis, Sean Wheeler practices hypnotherapy and shares with us the science behind how it works.
So it's actually a natural state. It's not something that only hypnotists produce, where the entire world outside of what you're focusing on seems to disappear from your awareness, and you're only giving your attention to one specific thing.
So it's sort of like daydreaming. You're awake, but your mind is wandering. Sean says he's helped many people quit smoking, get over phobias, and boost confidence.
Come on, have a seat in the big blue chair.
So what's a
Oh, hey there. This is Derek Bartoluccelli, and here at the Dissolving the Divide, we not only look at the exterior divisions going on in and throughout the nations, but also whatever might be residing and dividing one within themselves. And so we have to break things down a little bit with the not just the conscious mind, but the subconscious and the unconscious, and what does it all mean? Hey, have you done your shadow work today? Type of thing. But
Thank you, Derek.
Leslie, I'm not asking you, but it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm working on my shadow work most of the time.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. And I'm really happy to introduce our guest today, Oxana
Yeah.
Lovich. And I'll just share briefly how I met her. About a year ago, I think it was a year, maybe even two.
Less than a year. It was June. June last year.
Yes, June of last year. And so here we're in April, so almost a year ago, at a sweat lodge of a mutual friend up in the Mount Shasta area. And Oxana was like a day or two away from having a baby.
That's so true.
Yes, and so she was there as more of a supporter outside the lodge and waiting. And I think you had just traveled with your partner to Mount Shasta with the intention of having your baby there. So quite an adventure, adventurous spirit, clearly. And in just talking about, I mentioned that I'm involved with this podcast. We exchanged information. And then just a few months ago or a couple months ago, you reached out to me and said, "You're ready. You've got this project that is really active." And so we want to hear about what you're working on, and specifically share your insights and wisdom about the subconscious and how when let's just start out with what the difference is between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. Maybe define that for us.
Awesome. First of all, I devoted my whole life. I mean, I'm still quite young, but like half of my life to studying the subconscious mind, because when I transformed my subconscious beliefs, that's exactly when I noticed significant results in my life. Because since I had a very challenging childhood, my parents passed away and I was in an abusive environment, despite the fact I was born in a very successful family, successful financially. I always felt not enough. Like I never had, like it was really hard to live with myself. And I was reading so many spiritual books and I was on the path of self-discovery, but nothing truly helped until I turned into rapid transformational therapy. And that's exactly hypnosis that helps you to tune into your subconscious mind and helps you to discover what limiting beliefs you may hold in your subconscious mind. And interestingly enough, I was so shocked that I actually forgot those ideas that I myself created as a little child. And that's what happens with many people. When we create subconscious beliefs, we are very little. But then when we become adults, we forget that we created those beliefs. But we feel sometimes like victims of life or victims of circumstances or certain unwanted patterns. And that's why my favorite way to build a strong foundation before any achievement is working directly with the subconscious mind, so that you actually discover first what holds you back. Once you discover, you become more aware, because once you become aware, you start realizing that you can change. And when you know that you can change, miraculous attitude starts governing your life. Because even though you may still experience negative events, But you know that you can change those. The more that you tune into your subconscious, the more that you create a new program. And that is exactly when you start looking at life differently, and it becomes so magical to live, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds like this process can create hope. It can help us to see that there is possibility for a life maybe that we didn't think we could have, right?
And for the inner state too,
Yeah.
because interestingly enough, I was always achieving success, like physical success, quite easily because I'm always ambitious. And I was always ambitious and I was always hardworking and very inspired. No matter what I did, I was always the best, but I never felt good. And that's when I knew life was not about just physical accomplishments, like physical success accomplishments. It was about fulfilled success. That's when you feel abundance, when you feel at peace with what you're creating, when you feel at peace with yourself, and when you are able to manifest beautiful relationships. Because usually when you when you hold limiting subconscious beliefs, all your relationships suffer from it because you just don't feel well, and you consistently create conflicts and drama and all types of dreadful things.
Yeah, yes, that's a really important point because if you're not aware of those driving beliefs, then they kind of have a life of their own, right? And play out in our relationships in ways that maybe could be very confusing until you identify what those driving beliefs are, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the unconscious, subconscious projections, possibly?
Yes, it's like those projections happen due to certain ideas that we as children are self-decided, and they can be so irrational, so illogical. So like I've done so much healing with other people as well, and like I had an example, like this lady, she wanted to get married, she wanted to have children, and every man that she would meet would be not the one that wanted to commit to a relationship. And then when we did subconscious, like RTT hypnosis, she herself saw the scene in her childhood when her father was abusive to her mother. And she herself, as a little girl, decided that she did not ever want to get married because marriage was painful. As an adult, she forgot about this. But as an adult, she was consistently attracting men who would not want to commit to marriage and relationship. And she was close to her 40s and she did not yet have children, and she started getting worried. And when she uncovered the limiting belief, wow, a lot of things in her life start changing. Of course, once you uncover the belief, it will still require dedication to transform the way you look at things, to start noticing when you look at the world with a limiting belief, whether with new awakened belief.
Right. So there's a process of embodying the new beliefs, I imagine, right? Where you have to have awareness of choices and whether you slip back into old patterns or not. And yeah, maybe I think we should talk more about that in a little bit. But you mentioned rapid transformation therapy as the form of hypnosis that you studied. Can you share more about that?
Rapid transformational therapy is truly a revolutionary technique because I've studied rapid transformational therapy with Marisa Peer. And Marisa Peer, she's a world renowned hypnotherapist. She's known as the best doctor in Britain. And if you know British education, it's much more advanced, especially when you pass exams. So they kind of require a lot of commitment. So Marisa Peer, when she certifies you, if you yearly pass her exam, you can even charge insurance from your clients. So you're a certified therapist, not even hypnotherapist, because she calls it rapid transformational therapy. So she calls it a form of therapy which tunes directly into your subconscious. But it is a form of hypnosis. And Marisa Peer, she helped so many famous people, celebrities, and so many people all around the world to transform their subconscious mind and truly live an extraordinary life. And if you listen to the cases that she worked with, it may sound like it's magic, but it's not magic. It's the magic of the mind. I mean, it is magic, but it's not like magic in a literal sense, because things that she helped people to overcome, like she's a specialist in infertility, and there was so many cases how women couldn't get baby, and after one hypnotherapy session, many ladies got pregnant because they found out that they themselves decided they didn't want to have a baby, or they did not like their period time, like many things that those ladies themselves saw as an obstacle when they were like very young, but then they turned it into a limiting belief, which now were not helping them to get pregnant. She also helped many people with actual with drug addictions, with stuttering, and challenges that may seem very difficult to overcome with hypnosis. She was able to do so because even medical doctors couldn't help people, with those issues.
Wow, yeah. And yeah, just gotta I didn't it didn't need to be mentioned in the beginning because we're highlighting your work, not anyone else's, but just in general, yeah. I mean, people just want to throw out, oh, well, that's just anecdotal and play their little yodel and whatever the hell, right? Logical fallacies, but hey, like my the girlfriend that I'm with currently here in France, that's what she does right now. She does that and acupuncture, and she has helped people, find better relationships, especially the one that they have with themselves, which it has to be done first and foremost, reconnecting, with that subconscious, unconscious mind field. And it's kind of like releasing those inner blockages so that the vistas of life can be really seen before you for what they are, and you have more opportunity to manifest your magic, right, as you're saying. And I guess one of the things that I've noticed, and I haven't really heard it being articulated enough in context to all this, and it goes into shadow work and everything, but yeah, you mentioned of, all right, yeah, so how was my relation or my parents' relationship? How were they lovers? And how was I examining that and stuff? And just like being able to step back as the objective observer and trying to see things unravel objectively, and looking at yourself, growing up, and all these things. And it doesn't matter at the time of how they interpreted what was going on. What matters what was just going on between the two parents, and reconciling and understanding, connecting with the anima and animus, right, of the mother father connection, and on all these things. And yeah, it just brings in much deeper introspection for that self-reflection. But yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so,
like, go ahead, Oksana.
yeah, I just said that's so true. Like the parents' relationship are the relationship that we see first if we lived, of course, with our parents, and they influence how we build our relationships, all relationships, and our life. That's why it's very essential. Like right now, as a mother, I became so aware that a child is residing in a receptive state, in a delta and theta state of consciousness. So you have to be really, really um, careful what type of suggestions you like really give to the child. Essentially, not what you say, but who you are. Because see, children they're quite receptive to your behavior, because you can read children all day positive books, but if you yourself are not example of that behavior, then children mostly take the behavior rather than your teachings.
Really great points. Oksana, it points to the programmability of the young mind and the receptive state that is demonstrated through the brain waves. And and so there's also the idea of the mind body connection, that they're really interconnected. There really isn't a separation there. And so I recently read a post, it was from an occupational therapist who was talking about the impact of her own nervous system state on her daughter's behavior. And that even when you're, you know, controlling your speech and trying to say and do, the right things, if your nervous system is really off, a child will perceive that. And maybe that is really what's affecting that child even more than the words, especially for very young children who don't, the left brain doesn't, and the language skills don't really come into play till 18 months. So infants are very attuned to the right brain and the energy state of who's around them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, expand on that in any way you'd like.
Because see, as children, we are much more pure. And what I mean, we're pure, we did not yet inhabit a lot of views about the world. So we perceive everything with a heart. And let's say I've heard the story about like drug addiction parents, right? And they may hide it from the children, but it's a known fact, like when children reside in the environment where parents are using some substances, children most likely to use those substances as well. This is very sad. That's why I say it's essential to be the change rather than teaching the change. Like there was some studies were done with parents that are smoking cigarettes, and interestingly enough, despite the fact parents taught their children that cigarettes were dreadful, cigarettes were not good for your health, cigarettes were harmful for your lungs and heart, right? Children that grew up with a family, not every child, but like 80% of children who grew up with parents who were smoking cigarettes, they start smoking cigarettes as well. And it's essential, of course, if you are pregnant and if you are already ready to give birth and you are not fully, like you did not yet master your inner state, it doesn't mean you are not yet ready to give birth. But I would always say it's essential to start working on yourself, because you give into this world a new life form. And this beautiful child will kind of be a reflection of you. Of course, the child can always choose its own path. We sometimes see families where like children are completely different from their parents, but most of the times our children kind of a reflection of our beliefs, because they learn from us how to live life, how to look into this world, and how to communicate, how to build relationship. And my advice to all the parents is to truly delve even deeper into your inner state, into your subconscious, if you're having children, because I kind of feel like now we're responsible for more than ourselves, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well said. You mind if I say something real quick, Leslie? Yeah. What you're getting at, another way to put it is, children, they pick up, subconsciously, whatever, energetic signals. And, they can recognize certain, patterns of that, and also just behavioral patterns, right? And yeah, there's like the reverse psychology possibly of, oh, son, this is very bad for you. Don't be smoking this or whatever, and this and that. But like, well, he's saying that, but he's doing it every day with the, there's it's so yeah, there's that. And we can't always make excuses. And I have, like, my father, he grew up, with my grandmother and grandfather smoking all the time, and he was just compelled or repelled to do the exact opposite. Like, he never really touched that stuff. But anyways, it's really fascinating to just really think about these things. Yeah. So, and come to think of it, I don't know if we properly introduced your work and, the office or your agency at the moment, and what you do, that kind of stuff.
Yes. So I recently published my book, Abundance.
That's, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I
I
knew
was
there's
so
that,
happy.
something like
It's like my
that.
next, it's my another child, honestly. Like I feel it. My book is my child. And I was working on that book for 7 years. And why did it take me so long? Because it was a journey of learning different areas of life. And also, I felt like my own transformation alongside with the progress of the book, they were kind of like they went together. That's why it took quite a while, and I did not feel like 3 years ago, 4 years ago that it was ready. And interestingly enough, Mount Shasta was the place that I went more than 50 times, and each time I was on the next editing process, I went to Mount Shasta to bless a book. It's a true story. One time I even went to Mount Shasta when there was so much snow that I could not even drive there. So they put a chain on my car, and it took me another 1 day to just come to Mount Shasta. But I still came to Mount Shasta because I felt like Mount Shasta played a significant role in the process, because it was essential for me that the book was divinely channeled alongside with my own knowledge, so that the knowledge truly helps people, so that like the book truly transforms everyone who reads it. And I felt like Mount Shasta has a very, very special place in my heart because of that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, you should definitely stop by Leslie's next time you go up for a special book anniversaire. If
Oh,
that's
by
what-
the way, in my book, in the second chapter,
What's it called, by the way?
Abundance: A Fulfilled Path to Success.
That's right.
And in the second chapter, I
Hmm.
speak about Mount Shasta, and I like told my audience like that Mount Shasta was my place where I awakened. And truly, that's exactly what happened. Before I went to Mount Shasta, I was an actress, and I loved acting, but I felt unfulfilled. And I was doing quite well. I started booking great shows, and I was constantly in commercials. However, I just did not feel well about myself, and I felt like something was missing. So I went to Mount Shasta, and in Mount Shasta, I changed my life. I came back, I started writing a book. I decided to go directly into the psychology and transformational coaching, and I left acting for good. After Mount Shasta, one trip to Mount Shasta, it was my first one.
And so now you've been doing some work on, but you've gotten some exposure to the work you're doing. Yeah. So share a little more about the work. What does your work become now?
Well, honestly, I do believe when you follow your life's purpose, there will be always opportunities, and there will always be people who will guide you to help more people. Because when I decided to become a transformational coach, I was already on the path of spiritual awakening because I was consistently studying spirituality. I already studied hypnosis. I already went myself to different hypnotherapists and therapists. So I was already on the path. I was just not aware that I actually could teach it, because I still needed a lot of healing to do on myself, right? But then I met this incredible man. His name is Andrei, and he told me like, would you like to be a speaker? And I never spoke in my life. I was just studying spirituality so vigorously, and I was starting writing my book already, and I had my office in Westwood, and I was spending at least 70% of my time in consistent education as well, right? And he said, would you like to be a speaker? I said, yes, I would. And in a week, I was already a speaker. And from that day forward, I was a speaker consistently. And then we start teaching, and I appeared on many podcasts. But that time I still had less experience, because right now I feel like my goal became just so much more profound. In the past, I felt like self-improvement still took over most of my time, and now I feel like my work became so much more about people, because it makes me so happy when people read my book or get transformation with my course. I have tears in my eyes. and I feel like a bird. Like it's a feeling that is almost impossible to share, like how I feel. And right now, when I see my work expanding, which is expanding every single day, I see the world's transformation. I truly see it, because I do believe that the world will be a better place when we all awaken to how we should perceive the world. Because I work with a lot of very successful people. I often go to New York, and you have no idea how perceptive rich, successful people became to this knowledge. Especially recently, the stock market collapsed, and so many people started to awaken. I started explaining them about the expansion, that all of this is happening for the expansions of your beliefs, for the expansions of your consciousness, and you cannot be fearful about it. You should awaken to the potential of complete freedom and actually tune for the first time ever into frequency of true abundance. Because do you know how many rich and successful people in New York that I know that live in consistent fear? And that's not life. And that's what I see, that the more people awaken to this powerful state of fulfilled success, when abundance, success, and fulfillment become your natural state, we're going to create better world, not only for ourselves, for animals, for nature, for planet as a whole, you know.
Yeah, really, I think it's very important what you're saying about leaving the scripts of fear, that we're being fed daily, and getting tangled up in that, in this negative programming, and to really recognize that the power is within, and that we can make the shift ourselves. We don't need to depend on someone else to do it for us, or an external entity. So,
And a lot of people believe that, like, successful people are happy, successful people are very fulfilled because they have everything. Sometimes, by seeing the world, I see that there is a disease in the world, and this disease is fear and overactive mind. A lot of people struggle with this. And I do believe that it doesn't matter what you have in life, what you've manifested, unless you truly master your mind and master your heart, the state of your heart, right? Then it will be very challenging to live, no matter how much it will be very challenging to live uh, peacefully and happily, because the state of the heart, the state of our feelings, are more essential than what we actually have in life. Because we can have millions and billions of dollars, but if we don't feel abundant, then we're truly not abundant. We're just striving for the next thing to make us feel better, but we are not truly living in a state of fulfilled success, which is my purpose. That's why I named my book A Path to a Fulfilled Success, because I see the world being both successful and fulfilled. And no matter what success means for everyone, but I see people awakening to that state, and the world becomes just beautiful, joyful place to live. And we also we will stop creating so much damage to the earth, because the earth feels our frequency, and whatever is happening in the world, it just simply shows it in the form of fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, or other natural disasters.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really unfortunate that, the matrix and the ways that it's working. Sorry, but it's kind of forcing us to be in that imbalance of, the left hemisphere of the brain, and we're not, balanced, with the right hemisphere, and, really tapping into our imagination, and, understanding that, we have that infinite potential of these things. And, that has to go through, a lot of time of, breaking these limited beliefs and all these things that we've been conditioned to have, and the whole nine, and all these things. And I appreciate that, telling your story and this and that. And, it's a labor of love and a work in process. And there are times when we're frustrated when we're working on some type of a project, like the book that you wrote. And listen up, folks out there. All you, uh, gung ho, learn some new information. I can't wait to go viral on the internet about it, or this and that. It ain't how it works, folks. It takes time. You have to really integrate the information and digest it, and also weed out the inconsistencies. And there's so many distortions on top of misinformation, whatever, the whole nine. And but alchemizing all that, and I think you'll be fine, right? So after you.
The point you brought up that is resonating for me is that we have a challenge in our world today to not be too fearful or too negative, right? And cynical and pessimistic. And a lot of people who are sort of learning about things that are going on in the world that are very disturbing can become overwhelmed, can become very negative and cynical and not have hope. And I'm really hearing you very determined to hold on to a positive vision of what is potential, what is positive. And maybe you could describe the difference between just maybe a more shallow form of affirmation and positive self-talk, as opposed to the deeper work that you're actually doing with people around deep subconscious transformation. So I think people get stuck, especially in the new age world, getting stuck in just focus on the positive, and bypassing and not really facing the darkness that they need to transform. Could you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, because I honestly truly believe that every single time we encounter a challenge, we must love it. And see, when we do just shallow work, we kind of dismissing what we need to work on in order to expand. And also, a lot of people are so afraid of pain. That's why there are so many pharmaceutical companies that are thriving on giving some numbing pills or alcohol or drugs, right? Whatever people take to numb the pain. But that's exactly what prolongs the process, because every single time we're experiencing challenges in our life, those challenges are blessings. They're teaching us exactly what we need to improve in our life to go to the next level, and so that we will be able to sustain success, whatever it means to us, and expand it. Because I also truly believe this is a teaching of Kabbalah, but I do believe it's a universal teaching that the more that we desire in life, the more challenges we will have. Because let's say our desire is to transform the world. That's actually quite a big desire, because you have to start with yourself. But then you're going to get so many challenges in your own life in order to transform yourself first, so that you become the change that Gandhi speaks about. Or let's say somebody has a desire to manifest wealth. That's okay too. There is nothing wrong with that. They're going to have so many challenges in their life first. Maybe their car is going to break. Maybe they're going to lose a lot of money. Maybe they will be not creating any money for years. All of these challenges will be showing in their life to show them that they hold limiting beliefs, or that deep inside they are not yet ready to align vibrationally with that wealth. Because what if they have all this wealth and they will destroy people? Because wealth can be very dangerous if you don't know how to use it. And that's why when a lot of people experience challenges in relationships or in their career, they try to escape, or they just try to kind of speak positive thoughts, but they don't ever work. Like, unless you heal the what's causing that situation, that problem, you can read positive books all day long and listen positive podcasts. It's going to be very challenging, because you have to kind of embrace the pain, take it in, learn from it, go deep within, but don't look at it as something dreadful. Realize that it's just a step in your life that you have to go through to get to the next level. And the more that you accept and embrace pain as your teacher, the faster you're going to grow out of it. And the less circumstances you will manifest that will bring that pain,
Yeah.
because eventually it will get easier. Eventually life will become miraculous, I promise you. Because I promise to everyone, because for many years I felt so sad. I would go through depression for years. I really thought I would die because I couldn't handle my emotional state, but I continued working, and it was getting better and better every single time I was working on myself. And right now, I'm not lying. I'm just saying the truth. I truly live miraculous life because I learned how to master my emotions. I started feeling so grateful and joyful. And sometimes I have certain things that happen in my life, but I learned to transform those things so quickly so that I don't stay in that emotional state. And it's a result of work that I've done on myself. So everybody can do it. It's a natural state to live in this state of joy and fulfillment. It's a natural state, but it does require work. But interestingly enough, that particular work works better than any, I wouldn't say drugs, but something that increases your dopamine, right? Because every single time we create progress in our work, serotonin and dopamine increases, and we feel even happier. So it's like a natural high
Yeah,
that
working.
teachers
Yeah,
talk about. Yeah.
I like that. You're really working with the physiology. You're working with the laws of your own system and how it operates. Really, all of this is about learning what is the mechanism of our consciousness, our spirituality connected to our bodies. Yeah.
So yeah, uh, really mastering emotion, right? Emotion, energy in motion, east to west coasting as he be doing, working and sprinkling your magic from here and there. And hey, that's great. And that is really, it's getting to that point of crossing those thresholds where you've done the inner work and there's not all these, subconscious, unconscious projections that are kind of inhibiting that proper free flow of the proper law of attraction, and you're really attracting that abundant positive energy because you're just emitting that from your heart core intelligence, right? And yeah, going back to what I was saying of how the society is conditioning us to not be in that place because it's kind of like that survival mode and this and that, which is very contrary to Leslie's Alive and Thrive and all that jive. But I love how you said it, and it's just so simple and beautiful, right? It's just having the proper attitude in the face of our challenges and see them as, you know, it's a welcome knock on the door. Like, okay, hey, Derek, you got something you're gonna learn today. Here's a lesson for you, that kind of stuff. And here's, and it's all about how we approach these things, and like having a crabby attitude, it might lead to crabby results and you might get pinched, right? So things to consider. And speaking of crabs, with the season of Cancer coming up after Taurus, we can't ignore this in regards to the emotions and how they be flowing, and we have to be the proper captain of the ship navigating these treacherous waters and things like that, right? So yeah.
Yes. And by the way, do you remember when we met last time? My child was
Totally.
supposed to be born in Gemini, like a Gemini season, but it did not happen in Gemini season. It was a full moon, Mount Shasta drum circle on top of the mountain. And it was already a Cancer season, and it was 21st of June. And I went to dance in this drum circle, and exactly in that day, I started giving birth. Interestingly, because I did not want to have Cancer baby. I did not feel that it would be good for me because I felt like he would be too sensitive, too emotional. And I know how cancers can be. They're kind of very receptive. And I prayed God, I said, please, can you give me Gemini? And exactly when Gemini finished, like 21st, I was pregnant. So at that time, I also learned that certain things are out of our control. However, those things are your greatest blessings because they will teach you to accept something that will serve you better than what you think you need.
Right.
And that taught me non-attachment to the outcome even deeper, you know?
Yes, yes. And there is a force, a higher force of sorts that is creating, like you said, these experiences that will grow us, that will kind of force us to grow despite ourselves, wishing for, an easy baby or like, that may not be what's really in the highest good or the highest purpose of our lives. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, too, I envisioned my birth to be very quick, very easy. And I envisioned and I had no doubts. So I kind of had certainty, but it all happened the opposite way. It was 2.5 days. But when my child was born exactly at 8:35, that's my numerological number 8. Oh my goodness, I knew everything is exactly as it's supposed to be, and surrendering to the outcomes and never losing the connection with the divine and being grateful to the way it happened rather than being upset. Why did it happen this way? Why didn't you listen to me? Like, whatever. You know how people get a little bit upset with the divine when things don't go their way. That experience taught me to surrender to everything in life. And high intelligence knows better, and for like they will always guide us, like this divine force will guide us into the outcomes that will serve us even better. Sometimes we don't understand the true meaning of why things are happening certain ways, why we have delays, why do we have certain challenges that we did not envision. But later in life, we learn to realize that all of that happened only strengthened us, made us more wise, more powerful, and prepared us to a true purpose or something better that we even envisioned. That's what I've learned through that experience, truly.
Wow, that's really incredible. I love that. And also, and that ties into the question I had for you in regards to like what other types of inner workings and deeper self reflections have been kind of revealed to you since you've been a proud, lovely, holistic mother.
Oh, well, first of all, I've learned that I kind of like in the past, before I gave birth, I was very ambitious, but I was kind of a little bit too busy. You know what I mean? Like I was busy as working nonstop. And recently I've learned that I must surrender as well. Because when a lot of things happen not according to the plan, at that time I only had two choices: to get completely upset because the situation was not easy, like the way the birth and everything went. And we kind of check out from RNBB already, and RNBB no longer had availabilities because I thought I would give birth way before, but I had it literally in the last day. So, but I surrendered and things turned out even better. And then I also surrendered to the next steps because imagine I had three products that I was developing, actually, two products I was developing for many years, for 7 years, right? Plus 10 years of wisdom and studying and exploring. Plus, I had a baby. So it's kind of three children. That's how I consider it. And I was again getting a little busier, and the child kind of, because child requires a lot of attention, helped me to surrender and to allow all of the products and my baby to grow and evolve at their own speed without any force, without any push, and without fears. You know, that stillness within. When you wake up in the morning and you don't have to think about what would happen today, how much work you have to put, and check the progress, rather you just allowing everything to grow and evolve at their own speed, you know?
Yeah, that seems very important and something very relevant for me to embrace right now in my life. And I see that there's like this
Leslie, are you
attention.
talking about your women's circle, by the way?
Well, yeah, trying to do that on top of work and being a
Not to
parent,
plug that in the beginning, my bad.
obsessing about things. But yeah,
Sorry, go.
but I do think like there's this tension between expectation, right? And expectation can be dangerous a little bit, and allowing and trusting. And the trust is also, countered by the fear. So how might you work with the expectation, the desire that people have to control outcomes? It's very common.
Yeah, you kind of have to tune into certainty, certainty. So if your purpose is if your purpose has higher intention, it becomes easier. So if your purpose is to prove and to show off, then it would be very challenging because that purpose will always, it's not ever going to bring satisfaction. But let's say if your purpose has very high purpose, right? And high intention, then you just know that that particular purpose will have its own timing for manifestation. Just like everything in nature, we cannot push tomato or any fruit to grow faster. And if we do, then it's not going to be fully organic and natural, and it's not going to have the vibrance of its true flavor and vibrance of health as well, right? But if we allow it and living a purpose vigorously, knowing that if we desire something, we're destined to create it. If we have work ethic and dedication and inspiration, but the timing will be exactly when it's supposed to be. Because I remember I went to Santa Barbara Film Festival and I met David O. Russell. David O. Russell, he is a director of Silver Lining Playbook and many other movies, but he's a world award nominated director. And he was telling the story about this movie that it took him many, many years. I forgot how many, maybe 8 years or 6 years. Like it was a quite a long time. And he was also trying to be a director. I usually don't use the word try, but trying to be a famous, not famous, like a transformational director for many years, more than 10 years. And he said, I was working as a waiter, I was working as a bartender as well. And some of my friends were even laughing at me because they were kind of like, were you still writing? They were making jokes because he was so devoted to his purpose while working as a waiter and a bartender in New York, right? And he said, guess what happened? I never stopped rewriting the Silver Lining Playbook because that was an inspiration that was going through me. And the fact that it was never picked up did not frighten me because it was refused many times. But when it was picked up, guess what happened? It was nominated for an Oscar. And that's what I mean. That another director, if he was not following his higher purpose, he would give up long time ago, because once he didn't see the money or financial gratification or whatever else some people do it for, they would give up. This person was allowing this powerful energy flowing through him in order to create a masterpiece. The timing can be frightening for some people. For him, it was not. Maybe from time to time, but he continued working. And look, he created one masterpiece after another. And this is an example that can show that when you truly connect with your true purpose, life's purpose, then you trust the divine timing. You trust that your product will be born in a perfect state, no matter how long it takes, because you enjoy the journey, you have certainty, you have trust, and you are not needing the outcome because you are the outcome. Like you already created it. You just mastering it. You're making it better, like Michelangelo, creating David. I don't think he was thinking about time and what's going to happen, or what would happen to David. He was immersed in the process, you know?
Yeah, getting out of our own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What you
wonder,
got?
what are some signs, that people can see within themselves in their own lives that kind of demonstrate that their subconscious is running the show?
Great question. Yeah.
The subconscious mind always runs the show. Um, However, the subconscious mind can have limiting beliefs or positive beliefs, right? Because the subconscious mind, that's how we're designed, right? Our subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of our thoughts, decisions, actions, emotions, feelings, ultimately everything that we manifest in our life, right? But if, for example, we hold limiting subconscious beliefs, then we would often create in our lives some patterns, unpleasant patterns that repeat themselves, and oftentimes they get worse. Like, let's say if you did not learn in the first relationship that you did not love yourself, the second relationship you manifest, if you did not heal your subconscious beliefs, will be worse, and the third one would be even worse. So that's why life can go both ways. Because once you start healing yourself, each relationship or every single thing you do will improve. But if you kind of dismissing it, then the life will make sure to teach you this lesson, because life is doing it for us so that we finally awaken, you know, finally just to life will shake us up, you know, to get out of that unconscious state. And that's why they even say, like, Edgar Tolle, I think, said that most of the times, oftentimes, spiritual teachers have the hardest childhood or the hardest life before they would turn into this path, because they have such degree of suffering that they have no other choice. And honestly, when he said it, oh my goodness, I related to that so much, because I knew that my life was so difficult, so challenging, that I had no other choice but go to spiritual awakening, or I would just die because I couldn't live with myself. But if we see people that experiencing small little challenges, that's why they don't kind of perceive those challenges as unnormal. They kind of start realizing, oh my goodness, all of this is normal. Life should have problems. In life, we kind of should experience. Like, a lot of people believe that life cannot be a fairy tale. I believe the opposite. Once you transform all your subconscious beliefs, which is absolutely possible, the more that you work on yourself, the more you will transform. You can start living fairy tale. If you would like to have a beautiful house, you will have a beautiful house. If you would like to have a beautiful boat, you will have a beautiful boat. All of this is possible. If you want to have a prince, you will have a prince. You want to have 3 children, you will have 3 children. I mean, certain things like children, maybe sometimes the universe knows better for us, but I think that on a material level and the level of our feelings, inner feelings, we are complete masters, you know?
Yeah. A proper manifesting generator and all that stuff. And
Like, we absolutely have control over what type of experiences we manifest. It just requires time and effort and dedication. But once you commit to this inner working, I guarantee you, like, you can create absolutely everything except few things that may not be serving you. You
right,
know,
because we live in a collective consciousness and unconsciousness and subconsciousness and all these things. So yeah, we gotta watch how the pendulum swings. On the macrocosmic, to the degrees of our microcosmic lives and inner circles and all these things. And yeah, just to reel it back, because you made a great point of how yeah, some of the great spiritual teachers have you know like, and it goes back to just how our character, our soul is kind of forged in the trials of fire, right? And those that have persevered through all that, uh, that, sword, if you will, it can be very sharp and powerful, if you will, and magical in a sense. And I'm thinking about like Lord of the Rings type of thing, like it's not just, a weapon to like stab people. I'm thinking it more in terms of, the corresponding elements in regards to intellect, air element, in regards, like the tarot, right? So yeah, wielding the Excalibur, that,
That's
the
so true
sword of
because
truth,
right now I actually study Aleister Crowley. Do you know
Okay,
Aleister
yeah,
Crowley?
sure,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
interesting opinions about him. Like a lot of people say he was demonic or all types of things, but he has a lot of powerful spiritual knowledge that he was teaching through his books. And I kind of like start touching some magical aspects.
Liber
And
77 7.
what is that?
Liber 777.
No, I
What's
actually
that?
was, there is a channel on YouTube that reads Aleister Crowley books and messages. And since I kind of teach prosperity oftentimes, because I go to New York and I have very successful clients that are right now going through a lot of challenges. So I wanted to tap even deeper into the energy of prosperity because the world is kind of encountering a lot of fears at this moment due to a lot of uncertainty in economy. And I was impressed how he said that the inner prosperity is the command. So, what happens is we oftentimes take our spiritual work lightly. It's a command. You make a choice. That's how I'm going to be. Because when I speak with some people, they say, oh, well, it's so difficult, it's so challenging. And I say, how much more challenging it is to live in a state you live right now? Make a choice, command your mind, command yourself. You're going to do that because we are much more powerful than we realize, because we honestly have the control over our next action and our next thought. So I love that attitude that he had, command rather
Mind
than
power, yeah. And it's like I
compulsion.
create what I speak, and a lot of people are lacking the magic within their own abracadabra.
Oh,
Abracadabra.
I have it in my chapter, abracadabra.
Et
Uh,
voila. Hey.
I, my book, I swear, I was just reading yesterday because I'm creating an
Labrador.
audio version. I have it, abracadabra. That's how it's called.
Yeah, most of the healing modalities that, well, all of them actually that I've stepped into, whether it's like theta healing or affirmative prayer through the science of mind, there very much is an element of command, of knowing, of declaring. It's not begging or wishing or hoping. It's a knowing, a very solid mental state, a declaration. And I do think that has a lot of power, right? So it is like the sword that cuts through the bullshit, and so so many good points here. And I wanted to just comment on this idea of creating your own sort of positive fairy tale life. And I can see how there are people who really are tuned into a really good life experience. And I know that that is very possible. But I also know that the overall trajectory of our world is going to depend on the majority's mind state, right? That we can create a good life for ourselves, but when the majority are stuck in this fear state, that has a power, and it's a ball that's rolling in a certain direction. So the more people that learn these skills and work with the subconscious, then the more change in our overall world. And I think that's a noble mission.
That's so true. But at least, as I mentioned, I've noticed that the world is awakening, because in the past, this particular subject was not an interest of many very successful and rich people. Right now, I see more and more people no matter where they are in life, they start awakening, they start looking for the way to feel better, to live abundantly. And I'm just so blessed for that, because I started noticing my own friends from the past that in the past was so skeptical about everything that I was teaching. uh, I've noticed their interest in my teaching at this moment. Friends that I've known for 10 years, in LA, they're reading my book right now. They're so excited. And they would like to know the secret to peace and contentment. And it makes me feel really, really happy. Because as I mentioned, the more of us awaken to this knowledge, truly, the easier it will be for all of us.
Exactly.
We are all interconnected, and that's why from time to time we may feel sadness even in our own hearts, because the world is going through that sadness.
Yes. So, can you share maybe the steps of the rapid transformational therapy? What does it involve? What would a person expect to experience through that?
So, rapid transformational therapy usually is done when a person comes to a hypnotherapist or therapist, right? Rapid transformational therapy practitioner. However, you can also do it online. I've created an online course actually that can help you with that, because it's a um, rapid transformational therapy that you can do at home. But there are only two ways to do it, because I don't think there is a way to do rapid transformational therapy completely by yourself, because there are always two people involved. And why? Because during rapid transformational therapy, you don't have to speak too much on a conscious level, honestly. What you have to determine is what you would like to improve. As like Marisa Peer said, let me say that at this moment I'm having a magic wand. Okay? What would you like to create in your life? Or what would you like to improve in your life? Okay? And then you kind of set an intention, because sometimes you can be unclear. Maybe you just would like to eliminate all that negativity that you're going through. Then it's okay as well. And during rapid transformational hypnotherapy, we are asking your mind, or you are asking your mind together with a therapist, right? Because you're always in control during rapid transformational therapy. 3 scenes to show you, which will reveal the limiting belief that you hold within. And these 3 scenes can be so shocking to you, because, as I mentioned, you may have forgotten them. Like, for example, me, when I did rapid transformational therapy on myself, I saw my father. My father passed away. I was 5 years old. And I remember I saw like myself as a little child, like literally sitting near the chair and on the floor, and I was crying, and I said I was horrible, I was not enough, I did not deserve myself, like I all types of negative things I've created about myself. Of course, it was in the Russian language, because I lived in Russia, right? And of course, what happened when I was an adult, I was literally thinking the same thoughts that I've decided at that time when I was 5 years old, all of these things that were wrong with me. Because as a little girl, I said to myself, if my father loved me so much, why would he leave? Because, see, as children, we do not think as adults. So my father loved me so much. And as a little child, I decided if he left me, something was wrong with me. Okay. I had very limited knowledge as a child. So the belief was not really logical, right? But then that particular belief created so many negative experiences in my life. And I would like to give you another story, because I think it will help so many people. So this was a famous rapid transformational hypnotherapy session that Marisa Peer did with somebody who was stuttering his whole entire life. This person went from doctor to doctor, okay? And every doctor said that we could not help him. because no matter how much he practiced with speech therapists and different pathologist doctors, I forgot exactly what type of professionals he went to, nothing helped. This man already was in his 40s, so he kind of lived like some of his life. So he went to Marisa Peer, and Marisa Peer did rapid transformational therapy. And what happened is, as a little boy, he remembered a scene from his childhood, how he put a chicken in the water, in the lake, and the chicken drowned. And because he thought it was a duck. See, because ducks can swim, but the chicken can't. The father came to him so, like, with very angry attitude, and he started screaming at the boy. He started screaming because he could not understand why he would kill the chicken, right? He was just a little boy. From that moment forward, he started stuttering. As the time went on, his mother said, well, he was stuttering because I think our grandma was stuttering as well. So it was another belief. So the first, he started stuttering due to that fear from the father. And then the mother also increased and strengthened the belief, saying that we had a genetic stuttering, like we had a genetic condition in our family. After one hypnotherapy session, he realized the cause of his stuttering and he never stuttered again. And this is a true story. Can you imagine? That's what I mean, that
Wow, yeah.
subconscious belief that can create a serious complications in our life that we may sustain until we realize what's truly causing this particular condition. And that's why I say how powerful it is to really go within your subconscious mind and yourself discover what exactly is holding me back. Because once you realize it, you're halfway free. And it just becomes so much easier rather than going from doctor to doctor or reading book after book, trying to change your conscious mind. While going into the subconscious mind, you can just do it a lot quicker. And I think it's just much more pleasant too when the process doesn't take too long.
Wow.
Yes.
Real quick, I'll pass to you, Leslie, in a second. But hypnotherapy, and I've been thinking about this for a while. Being with my lady out here because she does similar things, and she goes on this journey with the patient or client, whatever, during the whole thing. So it can take a lot out of her as well. But and I was just thinking to myself, and it kind of reminds me of a kind of a joke I had of just how, yeah, like it's not just hypnotherapy. Like people can have such a blockage of what that means and what it entails, but it can really facilitate a great deal of shadow work that really needs to be done within certain individuals, right? And people talk about, oh, just do the shadow work and yada, and that's why I kind of joked around in the beginning, right? Because it's been thrown around almost at a buzzword level rate at this point in a pop psychology type of compartmentalization, unfortunately, and people think they're actually doing it, yet they're not really getting all the nuts and bolts and down and like really actually possibly having someone help them dive deep into their unconscious subconscious minefields, right? So yeah, I'm really interested as to how you, well, I'll ask later. Leslie, what did you want to say?
Well, just to bounce off of that, what are the limitations to trying to do this alone, versus having a guide?
Well, I honestly, in my book, I provided a self-hypnosis script. So you can also do it on your own, but I think it's just more challenging. Honestly, I have to say this. Why? Because unless you're willing to, first of all, you have to kind of have a training how to get into theta state of consciousness, or at least in alpha state of consciousness. Me myself, I went to the Silver Method Academy. The Silver Method Academy, I also received the certification from them. They teach you how to tune into your alpha state of consciousness on your own. Because I think before you learn how to go into your subconscious by yourself, or in a highly receptive meditative state, we can call it, I think it will be challenging. And also, how do you truly know that you are in your subconscious and a subjective state? So I do believe, like, for example, if you would like to become an athlete, right? You're not going to study on your own how to swim. You will need to have a trainer who kind of shows you what you can improve, what you can do better, and how to do it in the best way, in the best possible way, so that you can win or just enjoy swimming, for example. So I do believe that I would recommend to have a specialist looking at the progress, especially at such an intimate subject like your subconscious beliefs. Because what if you tune into your subconscious mind, but you really don't know what's next? You know what I mean? You can also re-experience trauma without healing it. So I
Right.
recommend to do it completely on your own, because honestly, one session is all that is required. And me, for example, I no longer provide consistent one-on-one client. Why? Because I have clients already that I work in New York. Some of the clients that I work in New York, but I don't do like one-on-one in the office. But there are so many rapid transformational therapy practitioners, because my recipe has certified many people. And I also know that in order to get her certification, you have to be the greatest, because she's not going to give you certification. She's very strict. It's like going to the university for the second time. That's how I felt. Second, as I mentioned, my course, people can look into the course, but my course only works with the subconscious beliefs that are connected with success. But like if people are going through relationship challenges, infertility problems, or any other issues, like there are so many RTT practitioners all around the world that investing into this, I think, is the key. Like I would do it immediately. If I just learned it today, I would do it immediately without thinking. Just I would tune into intuition to get the right teacher. And maybe RTT is not exactly what you need, because there are so many other modalities that can help you to tune into the subconscious mind. There are other forms of hypnotherapy as well. And for example, Joe Dispenza, he's also teaching how to tune into the subconscious mind, but he doesn't really teaches it through hypnosis. But when I listen to him, he's speaking about the same things, how he was tuning consistently into the delta state of consciousness to see himself as a new being. But not a lot of people also have that willpower as he had. Can you imagine? I went to New York and I met my friend Alan, and my friend Alan said Joe Dispenza is his friend, one of his best friends in the past when Joe Dispenza was not even famous. He was coming to his home in New York. And he said that Joe Dispenza was so ambitious. Like, and when he had this accident, he was literally tuning into his subconscious mind on his own every single day for hours and envisioning himself fully healthy. Not everybody has that dedication. Sometimes it's easier with a teacher. Some people can be more intuitively connected with the divine so they can know the process. Some people may not. I would always attune with our own intuition or divine guidance on how to heal our subconscious blocks and to show us our subconscious blocks in whatever method that works for us, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you brought up, trauma, and a distinction between using this process to get success, and then there's also process of healing trauma. And I'm wondering if there's any contraindications to stepping into this, maybe with work if someone has really heavy trauma history. How would you advise them?
So, if you have a lot of trauma, like me, I had a lot of traumatic events, right? So of course I was not happy as a adult, right? Like when I was in the teenage years, I was so unhappy. So hypnotherapy helped me to eliminate trauma. But what exactly do you mean by the word trauma? Because my parents passed away. I was living in an abusive environment. I consider it trauma because trauma can be like it can be quite different from what I may see. What do you
Yeah.
mean by trauma?
Well, I do think childhood abuse and, developmental abuse. And I think sometimes when people open Pandora's box and see an event that was very traumatic, it can create a lot of flooding and overwhelm and PTSD and things like that. So how can one be cautious or aware of that? And in this process of RTT, is there um, a protocol
Yeah.
around that?
I actually talk about in my book as well. So oftentimes when we develop certain conditions, uh, we may actually not have that particular condition in a sense that the doctors say it. Like, for example, when I went to a doctor myself, I went to a psychologist. He sent me to a psychiatrist, right? The one that prescribed pills. And he told me that I had bipolar disorder. Interestingly enough, I did not take his recommendations to start taking pills. And I decided to heal it holistically. That's when I turned into hypnosis. Interestingly enough, after that, I had at least 20, I don't know exactly, but many women that came to me with a similar condition, like literally bipolar disorder, women, only women. And each one of them released their symptoms in just one session. At that time, I still had one-on-one sessions. Right now, I no longer provide it like this to everyone. So bipolar disorder, for example, when we talk about other disorders, I think people may relate. Bipolar disorder is a disorder that described a person going from manic to depressive. So their like emotional state is quite not in control, right? Like they can go into a different emotional state that can be quite intense. So interestingly enough, when I was a little girl and my father passed away, then my mother passed away, then I was quite abused. So what I learned as a little girl is to hate myself. So my mind was filled with thoughts of self-rejection, hatred, and all types of negative thoughts. And what happened is, of course, when I was an adult, a young adult, anything that would happen in my life would trigger those same emotions, those same thoughts, that intense self-hatred. Of course, there are so many things can happen in your life. Somebody may not give you a compliment that you wish to have. You may have rejection in school. I had so many different rejections in school because the mind also attracts familiar. So I consistently was on the urge of collapsing because my mind was go from I love you when I received a compliment to going into I hate you, you are not good enough. Like, and it was so intense that I felt that I needed medical help. After I did the hypnosis, and when I discovered that I was holding limiting beliefs and I was literally talking to myself as that little girl that experienced all those traumatic events, I never once had that degree of suffering. So each time I was improving myself and working on my subconscious beliefs, my inner state improved. And my bipolar disorder, uh, I don't think I even had it, but what I mean, it's like my bipolar disorder disappeared as well. But what I want to say that in America, a lot of doctors would give a diagnosis to people because that's easier to diagnose with people with a certain condition and prescribe them pills. If the doctors were taught how to show us how to master our own mind, how to stop living as a version of you that went through abuse, went through suffering, went through trauma. I do believe that many diseases would vanish, but I don't think it's beneficial to the government. And like, we still kind of have a little bit of work to do in this area. But
Yeah.
I do believe that a lot of conditions that we are that we are diagnosed with can be eliminated and vanished, and can be healed with healing the subconscious, with healing the past, with healing the trauma that we experienced.
Yeah, so it sounds like that even people with the most severe of trauma histories can get benefit through this hypnosis process. And
I went myself into mental institution. I have to say this to the whole world, because I thought that I could not handle myself,
Mhm,
because I thought that I could not live with myself. So I went there and I said, please, could you give me some pills that I could numb myself? And that's exactly how I was like sent to the psychiatrist who prescribed those pills, who told me I had a bipolar disorder. I would say that my condition was quite severe, honestly, because I literally could no longer live with myself when I went to that doctor, you know? That's
Oof.
why every condition could be healed.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that is really important to reveal, because
Mm,
there's so many people that are suffering so much and see themselves as hopeless.
yeah. I just want to say one thing about that in regards to how, yeah, it can be such a, like epiphany in a negative sense when, you're at a doctor and you're already in a fearful state of concern for your body and your health and all these things. And you get this, the diagnostics or whatever. And that's another thing, because there's a lot of false diagnoses out there. And what I recommend for people listening out there is to get a second or third opinion or recommendation, especially in the homeopathic sector, not just the allopathic side of things. And yeah, so already you're kind of in that uh, the survival mode in the R complex part of your brain, in that fear state, going into the doctor, and then they knock it a little bit off kilter with even more fear of some kind of, oh, you're bipolar or whatever, like they just they have their little chart and they cross some boxes, yes or no, and this and that, and then they pump out some algorithmic conclusions, sometimes some cookie cutter fucking bullshit, whatever the fuck, right? So what the patient who goes into the doctor, already they're going to be all it's their fears compounded by that, and then taking whatever they're prescribed is already making it worse, and so it's amplified fear in duress and or distress and all these things, stress, right? And so that has an impact on the emphatic and the both parasynth
The
parasympathetic.
parasympathetic and
Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
And
yeah,
over
All these things, yeah, go
parasympathetic
for it.
nervous system.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And,
And
and
it seems like it would keep reinforcing those negative subconscious beliefs. And it made me think about a lot of the ways people cling to identity around a diagnosis, or even in their astrology or their human design, or their Myers-Briggs, or their any all these different things where people are really clinging to a belief about themselves and letting that drive how they live. And I always think about like not clinging to an identity or a diagnosis or a type, to recognize that we have so much more ability to transcend and transform out of those things. They can be helpful to get some understanding of ourselves, or maybe a template that we're working with, but we have the capacity to transcend them as well. Do you agree with that? Any thoughts?
Yes, I do believe that a lot of people do cling to certain things about themselves, even name, even like status in life. And anything that we attach towards, we most certainly lose. So that we learn not to be attached. Astrological influences are real. I do believe that because I have a friend astrologist who is very, very powerful. I do believe you should learn about your astrological influences, and but not believing like that if you are like, for example, this particular sign, then you are this particular person, right? But you can learn from the astrological influences what you can improve and what you can eliminate from your life, or what you can strengthen.
Yeah,
Yes.
a lot of people. I think Leslie was alluding to the fact that a lot of people just have a really uh, pop version of horoscopes and like the daily zodiac sign type of stuff, a very surface level thing, and they don't really go into, oh, what's your ascendant, what's your north node, south node, and all that other stuff, right? And like
And
just all the planets
do you
within.
know your ascendant? Like, do you know your astrological influences?
Yeah, Leslie and I have the same.
Can you tell me?
Libra.
That's awesome. That's why you're so balanced.
Yeah, we keep the scales
Libra sounds
aligned.
balanced. So you
Yeah.
have Libra, and what is your like? When were you born? Like, what month were you born?
I was born on August 21st. Leslie's
I'm November 15th.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
and you?
I was born on August 13th.
Uh,
Oh, voila. Yeah, Mark Passio is 3 days away from you, I think.
yeah. One of our mentors, teachers. Yeah. I think that
Leo energy, love it. Yeah.
these are rich, even like, human design and different things like that that are connected in with, birth charts and so forth. I do think there are valuable tools for self-knowledge. I just think that people, they're looking for external answers, and they kind of sometimes grab onto something, and then they use that to explain away their life, rather than to look at it as a way of really discovering themselves more deeply in a way that can guide them towards more expansion and growth. So it's that kind of risk of just it's bypassing again sort of that internal responsibility to go within and transform those subconscious beliefs, I think. Yeah.
Yes, and just becoming more flexible, less attached to your identity. Because
Right.
sometimes it's like an attachment to who you are. And what happens is when you are believing in a certain way, and if it doesn't go your way, and that's exactly what creates suffering. But if you're more flexible, like for example, a lot of people, like when we speak about astrological influences, right? They would say, "Oh, I would only be in a relationship with this and this and this," right? And then at the end, it doesn't work out the way they expect, and then they realize, wow, maybe that was a wrong idea, because oftentimes what we truly strongly believe, almost like a rigid belief, oftentimes get broken. And in order to create less suffering, because the rigid belief, when it's broken, it does create suffering, but the less suffering we can experience when we're more flexible. Just
Right.
allow something new to be discovered rather than holding tight to what we already know.
Yes, yes. That we talked about that earlier with this idea of we can't control everything, right? And that oftentimes the path to our awakening, the path to our self-growth is through the crumbling of our uh, rigid beliefs or assumptions. It's like the tower card, in tarot, or the death card. There's a releasing, a letting go of something in order to expand into the new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think do you have
Yeah.
another question, Derek?
Yeah, I want to riff off of that and tie it into a question. But yeah, I hear you, Leslie. We're getting at that hour and a half mark, and I'm loving the conversation so far. Thank you so much, Oksana Lovich.
Lovich, yeah.
You put the love in Lovich, right? You know.
It's my actual last name because
Oh
I
yeah.
mean change it a little bit to make it more American, but
Oh
my last name like Lovchaya, so it's child of love. But I
wow.
made
Hey.
Lovich because American people did not pronounce it correctly each time.
Yeah.
And I decided Lovich sounds easier and less words. I mean, less syllables.
You see my last name? Shit.
Uh, I actually did not know. I know that Leslie Powers. Your last name is Powers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Derek Bartolocelli.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. I know the name, but I remember your cat like on
Oh yeah.
Instagram. Oh my god, that takes all my attention. Wow, that cat is so magical. Just trust me.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Cheers. Yeah, no, you know, being with cats sometimes, especially when you're just, sitting back and whenever they just, pop on your lap and they got that, meditative purr going on and you just feel into that frequency, right? It's so good. And, my question is going to be about how people can really tap into the stillness within. That's what you mentioned before. And I just want to touch on that because it is such a powerful place to be, like energetically, creatively wise, and all these things. And I kind of see it also as like drawing the circle of the magician, being in that 0 point energy, like that the cosmic womb of creation, right? And what you're able to tap into with the eternal mind field that you are connected to source, right? So, and that's where we get that, limitless, abundant attitude in a sense. So, do you have any tips, techniques of how you work your magic and how you can teach it to others?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually essential to learn how to be still because it's the secret to fulfillment. Because you can make millions of dollars, but if you don't know how to be still, you're never going to be present. So it's a practice that you have to dedicate yourself, honestly, dedicate your life towards. Because it took me many years, I have to say, to experience first moments of present moment because the mind is quite active in our society. Because as little children, we were not taught to be still. We were actually taught to be overthinkers. And what I've learned that no matter how much I was trying to stop my mind from working, it never stopped. So I always had some thoughts. But then I was lucky enough because I went to Hawaii to a spiritual awakening again, and I again experienced spiritual awakening. And I met this boy, and he was so divine. Oh my goodness, because he grew up in a family of priests, and that was he was doing his whole entire life meditating. Because he took me to a vision quest, and he made me sit for 2 days next to the river without speaking, without, I mean, I was still thinking, but the next day it started getting better. And what he told me is was it's about the placement. So if we send our energy from the mind literally into our heart, so with the breath, we take a different placement. We start living in our heart. We start feeling more. And that's when we start perceiving life around us with our heart. And that is when we can still have thoughts and our mind can be even active from time to time. But we become observers of our thoughts rather than going together with our thoughts. And the more that you shift your attention into your heart and into your breath, and the more that you slow down, the easier it becomes to reside in this state. And this state is easiest to master when you push yourself into mastering the state. For example, when you're waiting in line in a supermarket, that's exactly when a lot of people become very tense. Instead, you start breathing through your heart and you start reminding yourself that this moment is a present. You don't have to be rushing people in line. This is a present. There are so many blessings that are happening in this world. You are a miracle by itself, and you start breathing through your heart, feeling love and appreciation. And also, as I mentioned, I went to a vision quest. So that's when you go into the nature, you're fasting and you are not doing absolute, like you do absolutely nothing, right?
Digital detox to the max, right?
Yes, and I pushed myself to that level, and I still push myself every single day to take at least 40 minutes to an hour of complete stillness. So I push myself every day still. And I do believe that I will do it my whole entire life because it does help me when I'm in traffic, when I'm in New York. There are so many people, oh my goodness, and it's so busy, and so many people are fearful, and so many people are running somewhere. It truly helps me to feel centered. And I have a red light machine at home, which helps to remain collagen in the skin. So I just lay under that red light machine and I just breathe through the heart and I observe my thoughts. And then it kind of becomes natural, more and more natural the more that you do it. And like a gym, like you can never have a perfectly shaped body unless you commit to certain exercise or activity. And sometimes you don't feel like doing that activity, right? In the beginning, you kind of have to push yourself. The same as with your mind. If you want to achieve stillness, and stillness again means you can have thoughts, you're just not affected by them because you're living in a state of complete fullness, wholeness, just I don't even know how to describe, like fulfillment, state of gratitude. You can still have thoughts, but you're just kind of observing them and you are so disconnected from them that you can have fearful thoughts coming through. Somebody can even say something negative about you and it doesn't really affect you. And in my opinion, that's stillness while living in a material, fast, um, like fast-paced world, you know?
It's like
Great.
you're stuck in traffic, everyone's yelling around and you're just laughing it up, having a good time, enjoying the moment, you know?
So it's contentment, you know, contentment, and you send love. You can see it. You are not blind to it, but like you send them love to those people who are angry or irritated. And interestingly enough, then those people become much happier because the only way will arise, conflicts will arise, um, is when you react to the other person. But in this particular state, you send love to those who are not in their most powerful state, and it's also quite empowering.
Great examples, Oksana. I really appreciate the examples that you're bringing and the wisdom behind them. And I think the world really can benefit from this knowledge and these practices because it's more, like you've said, more than just heady knowledge, but it's an embodiment practice, and that it takes a willpower and a purposeful drive. And so, what would be your, I guess, pitch, to people as to why this work is so important? Why is it worth the effort?
And I have something to say, like when we are talking about willpower, and I think it's connected to why this is so essential. A lot of people, while listening right now, may feel discouraged because we are talking about willpower. And a lot of people believe that they don't have willpower. And I would like to say something that we all have willpower, but we are not tuning into it correctly. You can never achieve greatness through too much force and too much push. You can only achieve transformation by tuning into your power, willpower, right? And this particular work helps you to realize how powerful you are. And I do believe that willpower comes as a result of first tuning into your full potential. And your full potential can only be there when you eliminate what doesn't serve you. And that is when you don't have to push yourself and force yourself. Like I said, I went to this vision quest and I make myself meditate every day. It doesn't feel like force. It feels like because I have the vision of what's possible, and that vision drives me. So that inner power and the inner work that you can do with your subconscious mind exactly awakens that power. And that is when you no longer will feel that you're lacking willpower. That's when natural inspiration and motivation will be there in your life, governing your life and leading to the most miraculous, magical path.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Yeah. Please share more about how people can find your work and any final words that you may have.
Okay, so uh, my work can be found on my website, Quantum Leap to Success. Two successes with two O's. Also on sacredapex.com. Also, my book is on Amazon, Abundance, A Fulfilled Path to Success. I can see my book. Also, I have social media, Facebook and TikTok and YouTube. Oxana Lovich, it's just my name. And my last final thoughts, I would like to say that no matter what you are experiencing, whoever is listening at this moment, realize that everything that you're experiencing is perfect for you at this moment. I strongly believe. Even if you're going through the worst possible time in your life, start noticing everything as a blessing, as a teacher, because the worst experiences that we experience often lead us to even further expansion and transformation. And for those who are listening, I do believe they are already on a path to awakening because they have a desire to even tune in. And just always know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And there is always light that is guiding us in our life. And we are always supported divinely. And whatever desires that you have in your life, I do believe it's your destiny to manifest them in this life, because if you have them, they are channeled by the Creator. And never doubt that you have the potential to bring whatever vision you hold into your reality. And certainty and trust in the Creator will lead you to that path a lot quicker, and will definitely influence the most enjoyable journey as well.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Very beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Oksana. Very inspiring. You've definitely inspired me. And I'm so glad that I met you that day on Mount Shasta in June of last year. And so glad to see you having followed through. And I think it's a really good example of how you didn't forget, and you followed through, and here you are today. And it's a beautiful story and beautiful, powerful work that you do.
I
Yeah.
also would like to send you presents if you'd like. If you would like to receive my book, I can send you signed copies.
Oh, would love that. That's beautiful and
You can
generous.
just give me your address or wherever you would like to receive it. I'm going to send both of you, no matter where you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for everybody tuning in. And please check out Oksana's work and do the work. Yeah. So this world will really benefit from all of us doing this work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oksana, thank you so much again. And also for your fabulous level of English. You know,
Thank you. I appreciate you too. I enjoyed speaking with you. You both have magical, miraculous energy, and I am so grateful that people like you exist in this world and have courage to consistently create transformation in the world. So I'm very proud to know you.
Oh, thank you. Until we meet again.
Thank you so much.